Of course you should make fan art. That way you can make buckets and buckets of money. Alright guys, so welcome back. This is Cetriya, Cetriya, and today's topic is sort of start to the motivation rant sessions of mine. If you're listening to this just on audio, during the YouTube channel I do have just a quick speed up painting or drawing of mine just to give something for the people to watch. But in all, just go ahead and take a listen while you go about doing whatever it is you want to be doing. So besides my obviously cynical intro, I do want to talk about this whole notion of drawing fan art, especially as con season is already starting up. There was the big con of Emerald City Comic Con. Heard so many good stuff about it. Wish I was there. But con season is definitely starting up in less than a week from the time of the posting of this little motivation rant. I will be at Anime Boston. And I will not be bringing, I will be bringing one tiny piece of fan art, and it'll be 4 copies of it, and it's just because it's too funny not to bring a little bit of Teen Pop Epic fan art. Anyhow, so obviously you might be thinking, well, this girl already sounds quite biased. She obviously is like in the no fan art camp and stuff like that. And before you go, please hear me out. And for those of you who are firmly in the fan art, no fan art group, also give a listen, because I feel in the last couple of weeks I've been hearing a lot of random topics, both on forum posts, Facebook posts, YouTube posts and stuff that talks about fan art, and I feel like too many times the conversation end up being very muddy, of people just getting way too emotional about something that at the end of the day is not really worth so much of your emotion. So I started conventions in 2006, and I've taken a break for about 3-4 years, and this year will be the first year that I'm going back officially into doing conventions and really diving deep into that. And it took me less than a year to get over the fact of the sheer amount of fan art that was being shown. My first show was Anime Weekend Atlanta. And it only took me less than a year because I went to other conventions and I started to get a feedback from my work and stuff like that. So I want to really cover about areas that if it is touched upon, it's just kind of like just put in deep into the muddy of the conversation. And a lot of times most of these topics are covered by people who are pro fan art, and I feel that a lot of times they kind of walk around the issue a lot of times. And then there's other things when people use for the pro fan art group that they use certain examples, but they're not really covering in deep into why those examples work versus other examples not working. So I'm just going to go ahead and cover in some pointers, and that ultimately at the end of it, it's up to you to decide if you want to draw fan art. Like I said, it took me less than a year to get over it, because ultimately the reason why a person will do fan art or not fan art is up to them, and why a person would purchase something from you is also up to them. So let's get right into it, shall we? So the first thing is first, let me explain to you why I personally rarely, if ever, do fan art, and just tell you a couple of stories about it. So in my first convention, I didn't bring any fan art because I've actually never went to a convention, period. But I went ahead and got a table because at that time the tables were relatively cheap, and I was paying an arm and a leg for art school, so I figured why not go ahead and do a convention and learn from what's going on. I printed out a bunch of black and white paper because the school didn't charge for printout, and I gave them out for free to see what people were interested in. At the time it was, again, all my original characters, and I had a lot of people come in and pick it up. I did notice that the younger crowd, the people who were closer to my age, did not pick it up, but I noticed that the older crowd who wanted something different were picking it up. So pretty early on, I realized that my target market was not just the contemporary people who are into the current shows at the time. Fast forward it a bit later, and it's still the same. I tend to attract adults. Sometimes I'll attract younger people, but for the most part, I'm attracting people who are either A, being shop around to the people who actually want to be at the con, or B, people who've been to cons for a very long time. So, first point of the issue that I don't think a lot of people talk about, and that is just the sheer amount of competition you are dealing with when you're at a show. Yes, you might be thinking, well, obviously there's that many people selling fan art, so of course it's because fan art sells, so I need to do fan art too, right? Not necessarily, simply because of the fact that just looking at Anime Boston's listing, they have over 200 tables, and add to the fact that they had thousands, perhaps a couple of hundreds, but maybe even into the thousands of people trying to register into just Anime Boston alone. And for several conventions, the number of tables is in the hundreds, perhaps 200-300 tables. Do you really want to compete against 300 people? No, not really. So that's the first point, is that too many times people are like, if I just draw fan art, that is what people come into to go to the artist alley for. That is what people come to cons for. They're fans of these things. Of course, they're going to relate and whatnot. But here's the thing. Why would this person relate to you or to your fan art when there's 200 people, other people that they can choose from? So is that really a fair odds that you would sell? Not necessarily. So here comes into point number 2. Point number 2 is the fact is, at the end of the day, your art needs to be good. There was a time that mediocre fan art would sell quite well, that you could basically make a living on. But again, the competition has gotten fierce and fierce because most people realize, wait a minute, I'm competing with 200 other people. Let me make my art even better so that way people buy my fan art versus your fan art. And at the end of the day, which kind of comes to another point, a lot of times people who are pro fan art say, well, people draw fan art and guess what? They went and actually draw for the official license holders. Guess what? They went and made a career for them. You have, what's her name? I don't recall her name, but she used to do a lot of Space Coyote is her online name, and she did the Simpsons fan art and stuff like that, and she went off and made a career. But look at her work. Her work is of a quality that I'm nowhere near to touching just yet. So they did not hire her because she did fan art. Her fan art became viral, and then when they saw it, it was good, and then they decided to hire her. So if the quality of your work is not up to par, just because it's fan art does not automatically mean that A, it will sell, and B, you will get work at it. Use another example. A fellow YouTuber that I watch, he was featured, it's Christopher Kaiko. He was featured twice now, at least by Kotaku, and he has a couple of thousands of followers on YouTube and stuff like that. But look at his work again. Yes, he was linked onto, because of his fan art, he got viral, but the only reason why he's maintaining momentum is because his artwork is good. Here's another example. You have Will Terrell, who does the children's illustration and his book Little and the Kickstarter, and recently posting about several times about fan art. You have Jake Parker, who has done fan art, but all of these examples that I'm sure most of you know are artists who are actually really good at their artwork. They bring not just the fan art to the table, but they bring their thoughts, their ideas, their compositions, their techniques, their style choice. They bring something else to the table of a level of quality that, of course, if they're in the sea, if they are in a sea of 200 plus artists, they're going to stand out regardless. You would rather buy their fan art that is compelling and beautiful in and of itself versus some person that's randomly doing a bunch of subpar artwork of fan art because they thought that I need to make money this weekend, let me just pump out fan art. So, point number 3. And this will be a relatively short point actually, and then I have one more point left. So if you made it this far in, I hope you're finding some interesting gems and things to think about whether you should do fan art or not. Point number 3. It takes a lot of effort to make good art. It takes a lot of effort to market your art. It takes a lot of effort to maintain momentum on your art. So here's my question to you, my curious question to you guys, and please do either email, respond back, reply back, or comment about your thoughts on this. And that is, do you really want to put the effort behind fan art that you don't actually care about? It's a lot of effort. Do you really want to waste your time putting all of that effort onto something that you have no intention of maintaining, that you have no care about, that you did not really put all your best into? If you don't like the show, and if you don't spend as much hours and time it takes for you to create your fan art as you would your original art, what is the point? Or, on the other hand, that depending on the fan art that you make will depend on who you attract. Do you just make whatever's popular at the current time? Or do you make fan art you like, that's actually in relation to your original work? Think about it. For example, I wouldn't say I'm a big super fan of Gundam, so I can't really, if you put me on a trivia, I'd probably do maybe like a B- at best on about Gundams and stuff like that. But I do have a bit of a soft heart for mecha, and I have a couple of original stories and designs that deals with mecha. So of course, if I started making like Gundam fan art and then I make original work, that will make sense. Like there's a correlation between the two. So of course I would be attracting mecha fans. Then we could have a heart-to-heart, build a relationship, build a connection with that person. And of course it wouldn't be so much work for them to transition into the stuff that I create, because obviously I'm influenced by the stuff that we both like. Or say if I was doing another Magical Girls series, of course it would make sense that I make some Sailor Moon fan art, some Card Capture Sakura fan art, because I'm actually making original stuff that is in relation with the fan art that I'm creating. But if all of a sudden I'm going to do a bunch of Stranger Things fan art, or if all of a sudden I'm going to do a bunch of, Rick and Morty fan art, if all of a sudden I'm just making whatever's popular out there that has nothing to do with my original work, this person will come in, get a bit confused, maybe purchase your fan art, but then after that, that's it. You have a broken thread. There is no connection. There is no correlation. They cannot relate. They won't transition. Yeah, there's a good chance that you'll be able to find a few of the people that may have not noticed your original stuff regardless, and they might actually like it even though they like something that may not relate. But again, making good art takes a lot of effort. Marketing art takes a lot of effort. Maintaining momentum on your art takes a lot of effort. So why are you making your fan art? And to the last point number 4, why are you making your fan art? For reals now. Now I have to really deeply dive into why would you make fan art. At the start of this little motivation rant, I did sound pretty cynical saying, well, of course you should make fan art. That way you can make buckets and buckets and buckets of money. But that's not actually true. I know a lot of times people talk about the legality of fan art, and quite frankly, I'm not even going to get to that area because I feel that the information has been so muddied. But regardless, let's just go real cold hard facts here. Real cold hard facts that anybody can look up. Real cold hard facts. Fact number 1, laws change. I shouldn't assume, but the original IP laws or the original copyright laws are far different than what they are today. 2, it's up to the IP holder really to enforce their copyright, or they'll be threatened that they might lose the copyright. And how the person enforces it is up to them and their resources. That's why some policy it far more than others. That is up to them. Are you really ready to deal with all of that litigation? Probably not. So you just spent all this time making fan art that you're not actually a fan of, or maybe borderline a fan of, only for someone to come up and tell you, please stop doing this. Now you no longer have that source of income. 3, because of the IP laws, other companies, even though you may be willing to take the chance, other companies may not want to be taking the chance. What if an IP, holder decides that, you know what, I'm not going to go after artists in Artist Alley. It is taking way too much effort on my end. I'm going to go where the money is at. You know where they go? They go to the head of Etsy and say, please take down these people or else I will sue you, Etsy, not these individual people who are making pennies. I will sue you for hosting their stuff. They'll go to Redbubble and be like, Redbubble, take down this stuff because I will sue you instead of that person. They go to a convention center and say, listen here, you need to really stop these artists from selling my property. Take them down, close Artist Alley, or do something else because I'm going to sue you, not the individual artists. And the thing about it is that even if you are in the right, maybe you fall into the parody or whatnot and things like that, litigation is expensive. Litigation is time consuming. So even though your stuff did fall into legal parody, neither you nor the convention center nor the shop hosts are going to go ahead and spend that time and money to fight for their right to make fan art. So there you have it. Your gateway to selling your wares have been closed off to you. What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to sit there and continuously complain at the fact that, they should change the laws of IP. It's stifling creativity. That right there is not true, because just because I'm not making fan art doesn't mean I'm stopped making stuff. And new things come above and come out where people are popular. After all, Rick and Morty is not a fan art of something. It's an original IP someone came up with. So not drawing fan art does not stifle creativity. And in truth, you can always draw fan art. You just cannot sell it publicly. That's two different things. So why do you make fan art? Are you a fan? Or are you just using the time that you could be spending to make your art better, to take the slow and steady route and actually building your audience, to build your brand, so that way you have your own IP to control, and maybe you'll be on the other side of the fence where people are making a ton of your fan art and some people are okay with it, some people are not, and you don't know how the laws will be in the future. Now you may be thinking, well, of course I would love to have fan art done of my stuff, but at least you have the right to let people use it. There is a thing called Creative Commons. We actually legally have that. You have the right to let your artwork be free for others to interpret. But you have to respect that if someone else says, no thank you, like the artists of Homestuck, then you have to accept that they say, no thank you, and not be upset that someone decides not to share what is rightfully theirs. Quite frankly, original art actually does sell. It just takes longer to develop an audience. And if you are like me, where you have very little time as it is to begin with, and the reason why you're going to, say, conventions, or the fact that you post on social media, or the fact that you do what you do is to gain an audience that likes your work, and you don't have as much time to work on fan art, or you just happen to not have any series that you're currently a fan of, then that's okay. You just won't bring in $10,000, $6,000, $9,000. Not until you spend the years developing your brand, just like any other new small business. It's not just us. And I really don't want you guys getting overly up in arms on something that at the end of the day is a personal choice. If you want to do fan art, go and do fan art. You do run the risk of the fact that you probably won't make as much money as you think you'll make from fan art if your artwork is not as good. And at any given moment, the IP holders might come and say, please stop, or the laws may change. On the flip side, if you're firmly into the camp of only making original work or making very little fan art, then continue in doing so. What difference does it make if someone else is doing fan art? Just because I'm at a convention and there's a bunch of people around me making fan art does not mean that I should stop doing what I'm doing. Does not mean that they don't have a right to a table. Does not mean that I should be upset and go after them because they make fan art. I do what I gotta do, what I find is best for me, and they do what they got to do and what's best for them. It is not worth the emotional controversy, and I'm putting air quotes, for something that honestly is not putting people's lives in danger. It's not worth it. So, I hope this was giving you guys a bit of food for thought. After the con season for this year, I'll have some more information about general things when it comes to selling original stuff at cons. Pretty much, I'm an unknown. If I was as known as, say, Loish or Barachan or Famio or Yume or a number of these artists that sell original work and sell a lot of it, then of course I'd be making a lot more money, but no one really knows me. And like I said, it takes a lot of effort to market your stuff and to keep in momentum with it. So I'm going to put that little bit of effort that I have left in my body at the end of a hard day of work into the stuff that I enjoy creating. That does not mean that I'm not going to do any fan art, because I am a fan. It just means that I'm not going to, how should I say, bank on fan art to make bank. Hope you guys enjoyed this little motivation rant. Hope you found this rant actually motivational. If you have any comments or questions, like I said, reply back. And again, give me your thoughts. Give me your point of view. Tell me, why do you make the art that you do? What do you hope for it? Do you want to make fan art thinking that it'll make you back money? Do you feel that fan art is not worth the price to pay? What are your thoughts? Please leave them down below, and I hope to see you guys in my next soliloquy.